It has been established that duck works extremely well with fruits, as demonstrated by the French classic duck à l'orange. It is also extremely well established that duck works perfectly with spices, as demonstrated by Peking duck. So today we'll combine the two in harmony and in the process talk about how to pan-sear a piece of duck breast. So first up, the scoring, which is now made extremely popular by Instagram. But why do we score the breast? Well, because duck breast is cooked mostly pink, unless you're having Peking duck. And given a short cooking time, it is very hard for the fat to fully render. And what you want from the skin is rendered fat and crispy skin. And by puncturing the surface of the skin, you allow the rendering to occur much more rapidly. How you want to score it, it's up to you and your Instagram manager. But the one thing to consider is, how much fat do you like under the skin when you have duck breast? Some people just want a thin layer of crispy skin. In that case, score quite deep and cross-hatch it. Some people like a bit of cooked fat, like me. In that case, I recommend scoring only one way and don't go too deep. The one thing you should not and cannot do is exposing the flesh, not because of the aesthetics, because the moment the flesh is exposed, the heat from the pan will start cooking the flesh instead of the skin, and the skin is an extremely good insulator of heat. That's why there's rarely a need to sous vide cook a piece of duck breast, because the skin is doing most of the job for you. So, on that note, we score. Another thing to bear in mind is the seasoning of the duck and the dryness of the skin. For me, personally, it is almost mandatory that you buy your duck breast a day before, salt it at 0.6% of the weight of the breast, which is what we have here. Leave it in the fridge uncovered. This way, the fridge would dry out the surface of the breast, removing its moisture. And we all know surface moisture is the #1 enemy to good browning and good crispy skin. If you must cook it on the same day, take it out of the packaging, pat it really dry, and put it next to a fan for at least half an hour before cooking. There's a reason why in Chinese restaurants they hang the Peking duck to air dry for a long period. That's how they achieve that glassy, crispy skin. Now, the actual pan searing. With duck, you always want a cold pan, not lukewarm, cold. And you bring in the heat slowly so that the surface of the duck does not singe, blocking the fat from rendering into the cold pan. And we bring in some very gentle heat. What you want to hear is a very gentle sizzle, almost like a tiny mosquito is near you, and you want to maintain that sizzle. If this is your first time cooking this dish on your stove, stand next to it, mother it, find the right setting, because we're going to cook this mostly on the fat side for about 12 minutes. Only then we crank up the heat, brown the skin, and brown the flesh. I'm using a stainless steel pan, not a non-stick, because I'm not worried about sticking given the fat content the breast has. What I want is that when we do brown the duck breast, to create a bit of fond, a bit of burn bit on the pan, so we could make a flavors and pan sauce. And at this point, we can add our spices to toast. Today, we have my two favorites with duck, star anise and cinnamon. If you could only pick one, pick star anise. While our duck is gently sizzling away, we deal with the other star of the show, the pineapple. Simply top and tail. This can be our garnish if you really want. And we just remove the tough outer skin. Of course, you can buy this sliced. And we take a beautiful thick cut. Shape it. And just to make sure it's not chewy, we remove the core. Perfect. Now we check on our breast. Almost 10 minutes, as you can see. A lot of fat has rendered out. Now, after about 12 minutes, we start to crank up the heat and caramelize the skin. And if the skin has been sticking to the pan in the beginning, this would release it in a minute or two. So be a bit patient. Now we turn and cook the other side. Just look at this. Look at the beautiful color. What we want to achieve is for the thickest part of the duck to eventually get to 54 degrees Celsius for medium rare. And because of the resting process would even out the cooking temperature, we want to aim for a core temperature of around 48, 49 Celsius now. Perfect. Breast comes out to rest on the wire rack. And while the breast is resting, we make our glazed pineapple and make a pan sauce in the process. So pineapple goes in. And a thick cut like this takes about a couple of minutes to cook on each side, which is the perfect timing for the breast to rest. Now we'll cook the other side. Oh, beautiful, look at that. And the sugar content of the pineapple caramelized perfectly with the duck fat and infuses perfectly with our spices. Now, while we cook the other side, it's up to you to decide. But I like to skim off some of the excess duck fat. So we have just a thin layer to cook the other side. Precisely because we did not use a non-stick. This is the burn bit, the fond I was talking about. And this is what's going to give us the flavors for our pan sauce. So we first deglassed with Mirin, which is a Japanese sweet wine, but you can use any white dessert wine for this. For example, Sauternes would work incredible. In goes the Mirin. And we cook to reduce the sugar content of the Mirin or whatever sweet wine you're using would thicken the sauce, giving us a glaze-like texture. Of course, we take the opportunity to scrape the bottom for all the fond, all the burn bits, all the flavors of the duck and the pineapple have imparted. Perfect. And to that, we add a bit of light soy sauce, which will season the pineapple and the sauce. Now, at this point, we can fish out our spices, thank them for their service, and we taste and adjust the seasoning. And you simply want to reduce this down to a glaze. No need for flour or any other thickener. Once you have this syrupy texture, everything's ready. So, warm plate, pineapple comes out. Now, you can carve a beautiful breast. For presentation's sake, I'm gonna trim this slightly here, beautifully pink. And for duck breast with crispy skin, it's always better to carve skin side down. It's something I learned from Damian. So this one I took a bit too far, so it's more medium well than medium rare, but the principle stands. And now, our beautiful pan sauce, or even pan glaze for that matter, goes on top. And that's it. This is pan-seared duck breast with pineapple glaze. I really hope you enjoy.